So he had this serious gambling problem, and then his father gets murdered. And there was always speculation if one had something to do with the other. From what you know.
Again, I don't have firsthand knowledge of this, but being that I was working with the NBA at that time, I was told two things. One, that he was told to leave the NBA around the time that his father got murdered because stories were about to come out, and there was a lot of heat on the fact that because of Michael's gambling habit, his father paid the price.
I'm very solid with my decision of not to play the game of basketball in the NBA. Reasoning being, I've heard a lot of different speculations about my reasons for not playing, but I've always stressed to people that have known me and the media that has followed me that when I lose the sense of motivation and the sense of to prove something as a basketball player, it's time for me to move away from the game of basketball.
One of America's most popular athletes is suffering a terrible loss tonight. The body of Michael Jordan's father has been found, and police say he was murdered. The FBI is now investigating this mysterious death.
We go this morning. We're going to return to ABC News in Washington and John Martin, who has an update on the death of James Jordan, who is the father of basketball star Michael Jordan. John?
Bill and Dana, the details are still coming in. Authorities in North Carolina say they have arrested two suspects early this morning in the murder of Michael Jordan's father.
Police findings seem to confirm the idea that they had yesterday that this was merely a random act of violence and not a premeditated murder. Again, throughout the morning, we'll continue to bring you the latest information we have on the arrest of two suspects in the murder of James Jordan. Now, private funeral services will be held this afternoon in Wallace, North Carolina.
James Raymond Jordan Sr. was born on July 31st, 1936, in Wallace, North Carolina. He attended high school in Rose Hill, North Carolina, and while there, he met a young woman named Dolores Peoples at a basketball game. The two quickly fell head over heels in love with one another, but Dolores' father didn't approve of her new boyfriend. But despite his objections, they continued to see one another. And even though his first name was James, Dolores always referred to him as Ray. And after graduating high school in 1954, he decided to join the United States Air Force. Initially, he was stationed in San Antonio, Texas, before requesting a transfer to Virginia in 1956. This is also around the same time that he would marry Dolores, who had moved to Alabama with relatives to attend trade school, and then she went to Virginia to be with Ray. And after 1 year in Virginia, the couple will welcome their first child together, James Raymond Jordan Jr. By the late 1950s, James had decided to get out of the Air Force and move back to Wallace, North Carolina, where he worked at a textile mill. While living in Wallace, they had two more children, Dolores and Larry Jordan. In early 1963, James would relocate his family to Brooklyn, New York, so he could attend trade school under the Montgomery GI Bill, where he trained to become an engineer. And that very same year, the couple would welcome their fourth child, Michael Jeffrey Jordan, who would go on to be considered the greatest basketball player that ever lived. But it wasn't an easy path. After completing trade school training, James felt like Brooklyn was getting a little too dangerous, and he wanted to make sure that he raised his kids in a safe environment. So by the mid-60s, the family moved back to North Carolina, where they settled in Wilmington, where they also had their fifth and final child, Rosalind Jordan. James landed a job as an HVAC mechanic, purchased some land, and built a house up himself. This would also be the home that would develop his son's Michael's legendary competitive nature, where he became absolutely obsessed with winning at everything, and losing was close to death. Baseball was the first sport that James taught Michael. It was his first love, and James had even played some semi-pro baseball at one point. But all sports were welcome, and no matter what it was all about competition and winning, especially when it came to the basketball games that took place in their backyard, when Michael would go against his older brother Larry, and a lot of the games almost ended in fights. Growing up, Larry was just always bigger and stronger than Michael, and Mike could never beat him in one-on-one, something that his dad would often remind him about, letting him know that he just couldn't beat Larry. The years from taking losses from his brother in front of his dad increased Michael's competitive nature to psychotic levels, where he was willing to do anything to win. But Mike wasn't just playing to beat his older brother. He was playing for the adulation and attention that he so desperately sought out from his father. As a kid, Michael would watch him work on HVAC or other projects, and when he was concentrating real hard, he would have his tongue hanging out, and that's where Mike got it from.
That competitiveness within me started when I was a kid.
We used to compete an awful lot in the backyard. My brothers hated losing, but not on the same level like me. Because if you beat me back then, we had to fight, you know, and that's just the way I was.
They were so competitive between the two of them. Matter of fact, at that time, it might be said that Larry was the best basketball player.
My father pushed everybody. And he had a tendency, if he felt you weren't doing the best you could, he would find a way to push you harder. And that really drove Micah, because Larry was pretty good at quite a bit.
After Michael was cut from the varsity team as a sophomore for being too short, going to 6'3" and eventually 6'6", becoming an All-American and receiving scholarships from schools all across the country. Now being heralded as a young basketball prodigy, Michael could easily beat his older brother Larry in a game of one-on-one. But this still didn't get him the recognition that he wanted from his father. Michael stated that at times it felt like Larry was his dad's favorite, because if he scored 25 points in his game and Larry had 2 steals in his, most of the love and attention would still go to Larry, making Michael feel like maybe 25 points wasn't enough and that he needed to score 50 or even 60. James admitted to pitting his sons against one another when it came to sports and competition, and that he may not have always communicated with his son in the best way.
By fixing things with his hand, took a lot of pride in it. And Michael would be out and you'd say, give me a Phillips screwdriver, he might give you a pair of pliers, you know. And I guess I was a little short-paced with him. I'd say, get back in the house with your mom. Boy, you're never gonna be anything, just go back with your mom.
When you're going through it, it's traumatic, you know, because I want that, you know, I want that approval. I want that type of confidence. So my determination got even greater to be as good, if not better, than my brother.
After his son had an illustrious career at the University of North Carolina, where he won a national championship under legendary coach Dean Smith, he was now ready to take the NBA by storm. After being selected by the Chicago Bulls with the 3rd overall pick in the 1984 draft, Michael would quickly rise as a phenom in the league, and after a playoff matchup against the Boston Celtics in 1986, many people started to talk about Michael as the GOAT before he had ever even won a championship. But Michael being ringless wouldn't last long, and by June of 1993, he was finishing up his first three-peat with the Chicago Bulls. His dad James was right next to him, embracing his son in his crowning moment. By this point, Michael was a sports icon and one of the most recognizable people in the world, and his dad was a part of his very close-knit circle, along with his agent and Ahmad Rashad. Some people say that James became somewhat of a celebrity in his own right, enjoying the success that his son had accumulated. Michael and James were closer than they had ever been, and he was finally receiving that attention that he so desperately longed for as a child. Michael was on top of the world living a dream, but soon that dream would become a nightmare, because on July 23, 1993, James Jordan had just attended a former co-worker's funeral in Wilmington, North Carolina. After visiting some old friends, he decided to get on the road and head to Charlotte. He would be driving in the brand new car that Michael had just purchased for him, a red Lexus SE 400, where he was scheduled to attend his son's Michael Celebrity Golf Tournament. During his drive, he got tired and decided to take a rest in Lumberton, North Carolina. He parked on the side of the road near a Quality Inn at the intersection of US 74 and I-95, and he was completely unaware that there were 2 robbers lurking in the darkness. They held him at gunpoint and forced him out of the vehicle in an attempt to rob him, but during the process, he was shot one time in the chest and died. And after not appearing at the golf tournament the next day, the Jordan family was worried, because it was unlike James to just disappear. And for the next 3 weeks, Michael Jordan had no idea where his dad was. The family didn't go public about his disappearance, just hiring private investigators and asking everyone they could about his whereabouts, but nothing came from it. But on August 10th of 1993, James's body was found in a swamp in McCall, South Carolina by a fisherman. But unfortunately, due to the body decomposing, he was unrecognizable and listed as a John Doe. He was ultimately cremated and close to going unidentified, but thanks to dental records, they were finally able to make a match and realized that the John Doe body was the father of the most famous athlete on earth. And after it was confirmed that his father had been murdered, the next question was who did it and why.
We are bringing you the latest on the killing of Michael Jordan's dad, James. The whole country seems to be in shock. Friends, family, fans, all of them mourning his death. Michael is such a popular figure. We somehow share in his victories and in his defeats as well. And certainly now, we all share in his pain. We have crews in North Carolina that'll bring us the latest on this tragedy. But first, here's what we know at this point. James Jordan was found floating in a creek, dead from a single gunshot wound to the chest. Authorities cremated his body because it was so badly decomposed. The family had no idea whatever that any of this had happened. Michael is now in North Carolina with his family to help the police with the investigation.
It didn't take the police long to put the pieces together due to the fact that the two robbers had been joyriding in James's vehicle after murdering him for the last few weeks, as well as making multiple calls from his car phone, making it easier to identify who it was. The vehicle was found completely stripped and abandoned in Fayetteville, North Carolina, about 60 miles from where James's body was found. All of the evidence and clues led them back to two individuals, 17-year-old Larry Demery and 18-year-old Daniel Green. They were childhood friends who grew up together in Lumberton and had known each other since the 3rd grade. They had a history of getting in trouble together and also had multiple arrests as juveniles. The two were quickly arrested and taken into custody, and almost immediately, they began to turn on one another, giving two completely different stories about what happened to James Jordan. According to Daniel Green's version, he spent the night at a family gathering in Lumberton, but at around 4 in the morning, his friend Larry Demery came by and told him that he needed help with something. It was his best friend, so he agreed to do it without asking questions. He had no idea what was going on. But once he arrived at the vehicle and seen the dead body, that's when he knew how serious it was. But he still decided to help his friend conceal the body, and that's how he got wrapped up in the murder case. But Larry Demery would have a very different story to tell investigators. He said that him and Daniel Green came up with a plan to hang out at the Quality Inn looking for unsuspecting tourists so it could be an easy robbery. He said that the plan wasn't for them to kill him, and they were actually supposed to just take him out of the vehicle and tie him up. But before that could happen, Daniel Green pulled the trigger and shot him once in the chest. And due to Michael Jordan being a high-profile athlete, the story set off a media firestorm. Everyone from local news stations to Oprah Winfrey wanted to know exactly what happened, and they were eager to interview Michael Jordan, even if he was in the middle of grieving his father's death. Another thing that made the spotlight shine even brighter on Michael is his announcement that after his retirement from the NBA, he was going to be playing baseball in the minor leagues instead. Baseball experts said that Michael was a subpar player at best, and that it was sad to see the greatest basketball player of all time humiliating himself on the baseball field. But Michael didn't care about what the critics said. He stated that baseball was a way for him to connect with his father.
You said so many times that this was something that you wanted to do for your father, and it was his dream. How do you think he would have felt about your efforts?
He'd probably been right here. You guys have been talking to him pretty much. I mean, he would have been right here enjoying a moment as much as I've enjoyed it. And, you know, I know that, you know, he would have been here, and he probably, you know, was watching over, and you know, that's all that matters to me. I mean, I know that I've done something not just for him, but for myself in general. So it's been a fun thing for me to even try and to be where I am now. I'm very elated about it.
You say it hasn't sunk in yet?
No.
No?
I still think about it a lot.
Mm-hmm. Would you want to ever say to them why?
No, because I don't want to know.
You don't?
No. Because it probably would hurt me even more just to know their reasons. Because if it is, it's going to be totally meaningless to the reason. And it's better that I don't know. You know.
How are you handling the grieving process?
We go this morning. We're going to return to ABC News in Washington and John Martin, who has an update on the death of James Jordan, who is the father of basketball star Michael Jordan. John?
Bill and Dana, the details are still coming in. Authorities in North Carolina say they have arrested 2 suspects early this morning in the murder of Michael Jordan's father. At a news conference a short while ago, law enforcement officials said they have charged 2 18-year-old men with killing James Jordan to steal his car at a rest stop off Interstate Highway 95 in North Carolina.
Police findings seem to confirm the idea that they had yesterday that this was merely a random act of violence and not a premeditated murder. Again, Throughout the morning, we'll continue to bring you the latest information we have on the arrest of 2 suspects in the murder of James Jordan. Now, private funeral services will be held this afternoon in Wallace, North Carolina.
On October 6, 1993, less than 3 months after the passing of his father, Michael Jordan was shocked the world by announcing his retirement from the NBA. And when he was questioned by the media about his abrupt retirement, he said it was simple, that he no longer had anything left to prove to the game. And once you feel that way, it's time to move on to something else in life. But some people didn't believe that this was the real reason why he decided to step away from the game, that it was really due to his well-known high-stakes gambling that turned into an addiction and ultimately caused issues in Michael Jordan's career to the point where the NBA had to get involved. It's said that the NBA gave him multiple warnings throughout the early 90s about his gambling. And right before he announced his retirement, a book was released by a San Diego businessman named Richard Aquinas. The title of the book was Michael and Me, Our Gambling Addiction, where he claimed that Michael owed him $1.2 million in gambling debts.
In my mind, based on what I've seen, Michael Jordan has a serious problem. He's in serious denial, and he needs help, and I hope this book is very pivotal to him getting help.
Is it possible that this is just a guy who loves to play golf, who has a lot of money, obviously, and to make it interesting, wagers large sums, and then thought in a friendly atmosphere that it wasn't really for real, that you were talking about monopoly money? So I owe the guy a few $100,000, then I owe him $1 million. It doesn't matter. It's between friends, and we're just kidding around.
You don't kid around for this kind of money, this kind of wagering. And as Michael was chasing and the debt was increasing to the 1.2 that it ultimately got to, I was very insistent that we stop, and I was very insistent that if we continued, that I expected payment.
Not to turn the heat on Michael Jordan, but to clarify the issue. Are you satisfied that this is not a serious concern for the NBA, the latest round of stories about his gambling?
Yes, I am, but it's raised a good issue, and I think it's something that we have to be, I think, very cognizant of in the course of the summer, not for Michael, but for dealing with the questions our fans have raised about our players, and we're looking into a lot of related subjects on gambling per se.
How can it not be a serious concern if the most prominent figure in the league is involved persistently in high-stakes gambling?
Well, what's your debt structure, Bob? How much money do you owe?
It doesn't make any difference. I don't represent the NBA.
Another reason that there was suspicion surrounding Michael's retirement is because one of the men who were accused of killing his father had ties to a North Carolina drug kingpin named James Ned Johnson. It said that Larry Demery owed him money, and that was the reason that he was so desperate on that night that Michael Jordan's father was murdered, as well as Michael having ties to a man that worked for James Ned Johnson as well. His name was James Slim Bowler, a hustler, gambler, and drug dealer. He met Michael for the first time in 1986 in Monroe, North Carolina. He owned a golf pro shop there, even though police said it was really just a front for illegal activities. According to Slim, one day somebody came into his shop and told him that Michael Jordan was on the course golfing. He didn't really think it was a big deal at all until they told him that he was out there gambling, and he was gambling for big money. This was right up Slim's alley. He was a self-taught golf savant and felt like playing against Michael Jordan would be easy money, and he was 100% correct. He introduced himself to Mike and they hit it off right away, and for the next 5 years, they were the ultimate gambling buddies. Slim would even introduce Michael to some of his other friends, such as Eddie Dow, a North Carolina Bills bondsman who also had a shady past. It said that he owned multiple strip clubs in small towns throughout North Carolina. Michael Jordan and his new friends' gambling exploits were so well known around Monroe that people referred to them as the Big Group because they always gambled for big money. They would even spend 5 or 6 days at a time at Michael Jordan's vacation home in Hilton Head, where they would gamble non-stop. And in 1991, he was busted at the airport with over $100,000 in cash and a $57,000 check from Michael Jordan. And in February of 1992, Eddie Dow would be found shot to death at his home in an apparent robbery. He was also under federal investigation during this time, and when police searched his briefcase at the crime scene, they found over $100,000 worth of checks from Michael Jordan. The feds forwarded this information to the NBA, who wasn't happy that the face of their league was being connected to people in the crime underworld. In June of 1992, Michael was ordered to testify in the federal trial of James Bowler. They questioned him about the $57,000 check that was in Bowler's possession at the time of his arrest, and Michael simply said that it was a gambling debt that he paid off and it had no connections to anything nefarious. It was reported that Michael only spent 9 minutes on the stand, and by the end of the trial, James Bowler received 9 years in prison, even though he stated that he could have got a lesser sentence if he had just done what the feds were asking him to do, tie Michael Jordan to illegal drug activities.
And even Bowler, when the story broke, was sympathetic.
He's always had a good heart, respected every man as being a man, and the gambling situation, the only thing that I can say about that is Michael have to deal with whatever he feels is right or whatever he feels is wrong.
At first, both Jordan and Bowler claimed the money was a loan for the Charlotte area pro to build a driving range. Today, both admitted that wasn't true. Jordan describing the $57,000 check as a combination of golf losses to Bowler and poker losses Bowler paid others for him. And Bowler testified today it was he who suggested to Jordan that they call the check a loan, if anyone asked.
Michael, why did it take you so long to tell the truth?
Leaving the court after testifying, it was clear Jordan couldn't wait to put it behind him fast. Normally, he's patient with reporters, but there'd be no post-game interviews today. On the witness stand, he looked uncomfortable when he talked about the high-stakes golf matches, which led to checks like these. More than $100,000 lost in golf and card games. What were the stakes, he was asked in court today? Anywhere from $20 Nassau to $1,000 Nassau. $1,000 Nassau means $1,000 for the first 9 holes, $1,000 for the second 9 holes, and $1,000 for the full 18. Doubling the bets when you get behind. It adds up fast. And even
the father often accompanied the son on road trips and was Michael's greatest defender during the recent uproar over stories about his gambling.
He would not want to do anything, you know, knowingly that would taunt his image or change the opinion that people have of him. But what people must realize is that he's just like every other guy that walks the street, you know. I think there was only one perfect person that I've ever been taught about, and that was God. Mike is not God, he's human.
Jordan was mobbed by reporters when he arrived and when he left. But it was up to the first father of basketball to explain what his famous son was going through.
The only painful thing about it was the fact that people, regardless of how it comes out, people's going to look at him and say, well, you know, he's a gambler, this, that, and the other. And, you know, really what he did, goes on every day, on every golf course in America.
Michael Jordan said in court today that the reason he didn't come clean immediately was that he was embarrassed. But clearly, the changing stories from month to month, the mystery, may well have made this court appearance a lot tougher than it would have been had there been one story from the start.
By 1996 and 97, Larry Demery and Daniel Green had been sentenced to life in prison, despite both of them pointing the finger at one another as the trigger man. In the years since being locked up, Daniel maintains that he was just an accomplice after the fact, and that he didn't take part in the actual robbery. While Larry Demery says that they were just 2 young kids who made a bad decision, and James Jordan was in the wrong place at the wrong time, and it ended in tragedy. During an interview with Daniel Green, DJ Vlad would even tell a story that he had first-hand knowledge that at a certain point Michael Jordan did in fact want them dead. But Daniel said that he didn't believe it because if Michael really wanted them dead, they would have been gone.
Jason Williams ended up not doing it and walked away. Years later, he was having dinner with Michael Jordan, and he was telling Michael the story, and Michael Jordan said, you know, if I was in your position and the murderers of my father were there and I had a gun, I would have killed him. I wouldn't have let him walk away.
Yeah, I'm going to be honest. Yeah, I don't believe that. I don't believe that. I'm going to tell you why I don't believe that. Because if Michael Jordan wanted me dead, I would have been dead years ago now.
And even though both men have spent over 30 years in prison and are now eligible for parole, they still remain behind bars to this day. One of the things that could prevent Daniel Green from ever seeing the light of day again is the fact that after James Jordan was murdered, he tried to use it to boost his rap career. He created a song called 2 Shots to the Head, and in the music video he could be seen wearing 2 Chicago Bulls championship rings, the same rings that Michael Jordan had gifted his father. Even though the time with his father was cut tragically short, it's clear that Michael had nothing but love, respect, and reverence for his father, despite the mistakes that he may have made raising him. And when Michael Jordan returned to the NBA and went on another three-peat run, he won his first title on Father's Day, and he dedicated it to his dad, James.
What would my father do right now? First of all, he'd probably be sitting here smoking a cigar, answering some of the questions that he's a very thoughtful guy. The thing that I remember the most about my father, and I had him for 32 years, and I never look at it from a negative sense. Obviously, he was murdered, and rarely do I get the chance to talk about him, but the thing that I do remember all the time, I think about him practically every day, is for a person like myself who live in the spotlight and is so critical from people all the time in terms of what I do, what I say, where I go. The thing he's always said, take a pause before you make a decision and say, what if? And the purpose for saying what if is that whatever decision you make, always either going to have consequences, either pros and cons.
Rather, if you believe that this case was some type of dark conspiracy or just a series of unfortunate events, either way, the death of Michael Jordan's father was sad, unfortunate, and completely unnecessary. And James Jordan, he was only 56 years old when he died. Rest in peace.